As Cameroonians await the proclamation of yesterday's regional polls, they have been unanimous in their rating of the elections process, describing them as an organizational landmark. The regional elections in Cameroon marked the turning point in the decentralization drive, as the nation just can't wait to see the putting in place of all the structures and promises they bear for the country. The laureate of the Goncourt Prize for high school students, Jali Amadou Amal, receives a heroine welcome at the Douala International Airport as she flies back home with her trophy from Paris. Those are our top stories. Hello, welcome to the 7:30 News. I am Ben Menopufong.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Welcome once again. They had been long awaited. Yesterday they came to pass and have since entered down into the annals of history in gold. They are the first ever regional elections in Cameroon that took place countrywide yesterday. Echoes from all over the 58 divisional headquarters where the Electoral College did the picking, talk of a historic electoral process with a participation rate that climbed up to the neighborhood of 90%. Ebenezer Kanga has been praising the history-making elections and says, be it from the organizational, material or security standpoints, it was a pioneering event with no major false notes.
Was proper material organization by ELECAM.
All the election material and documents were made available in sufficient quantity in the polling stations, and the local polling commissions were all at work. No major incident was reported to my office across the national territory.
The second challenge was to ensure security so that voting takes place in all the 58 divisions of the country.
I'm declaring that today's election went on in total calm, serenity, and transparency throughout the national territory.
So voting effectively took place in the entire national territory, including the southwest and northwest regions, where separatist fighters were threatening to prevent the polls from holding.
We are here today celebrating the unity of our nation in its diversity, celebrating the status, the special status that from today is going soon to have a face that will address our many concerns, who will not be sent to yonder anymore, but are going to be addressed here in the Northwest region.
For the first ever regional council elections to be organized in the country, Cameroon has risen to the challenge.
The key actors in yesterday's polls were political parties and traditional rulers who have all been chiming just one chorus: satisfaction through and through. If anything, they say it speaks volumes about the vitality and vivacity of democracy made in Cameroon. Beatrice Losamba sums up their reactions in this report.
After the twists and turns of the Sunday, December 6 votes, there's been scenes of joy for some parties.
Our feeling is that of satisfaction, feeling of fulfillment.
And disappointment for others.
We neither won nor lost, but learned a lot from the entire process.
A major contestant of the regional council polls, the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation says the elections went away with a good scorecard as it enhanced democracy.
We went into the elections with an advantage of numbers, but an election is the expression of democracy.
The votes might have projected victory for some parties, but democracy, they say, is the crowned winner. Cameroon's cut point in the democratic process.
The
votes were not out to show the strength of a party, but the people to work towards the development of their localities.
The election went on, and we're very happy, we're very satisfied.
The regional council votes done and dusted with, results awaited. The political parties are bracing up for another game, which will further strengthen the democratic process.
And the print media in Cameroon has been unanimous as to the fact that yesterday's polls went through without any major hitch. They have all, in their headlines, been singing as if in one chorus, not only the historic nature of the elections, but also their organizational and security breakthrough. Yoti Kalelisange read through some of the papers for the 7:30 news.
Historic regional elections, according to Repair, as Cameroon takes the most important step towards completing the decentralization process by electing Haponia regional councillors. As if in Q, Cameroon Tribune talks of a vote for history, one considered to have been successful, as 24,000 municipal councillors and traditional rulers turned out en masse to cast their vote. A turnout Realite describes as very cool. Not only were the elections cool to the Sun newspaper, but they went on unperturbed. In spite of the unrest in the northwest and southwest regions, an article in the Post reveals that calls for ghost towns were shunned and the election in Fako was performed serenely. An atmosphere applauded by the territorial administration boss in municipal updates. About the elections, the Median equally tells its readers that Minat has celebrated the hitch-free polls, while at the same time informing them of the participation of SDF in the polls amidst calls for a boycott. A story that was also carried by the Guardian Post, sharing the same positive view.
Now that the picking process is over, the big question still flying on every lip is what next? And the answer is not so much the proclamation of the election results than the desire to know how and when the regional councils and regional assemblies will be set up and who grabs what function. Constantine Baum has been snooping into what the law says and is here with the way forward.
The Regional Supervisory Commission gets into action. According to Section 264, Article 1, the Commission shall centralize and ensure the counting and verification of vote counting operations on the basis of reports forwarded by local polling commissions.
They will proclaim results of the election of regional councillors at the level of the constituency concerned, no later than 72 hours as of the close of the polls.
Section 266 of the Electoral Code handles the declaration procedures. In case of a single-member ballot, the candidate with a majority of votes shall be declared elected. In case of a tie, the eldest candidate shall be declared elected. For representatives of traditional rulers, the list which obtains the majority of votes cast shall fill all the seats. The list that obtains less than 5% of votes cast in the constituency shall not be considered in the proportional allocation of seats. The law makes provision for election disputes. Any elector, candidate or state representative in the region may request the total or partial cancellation of the election operation in the region concerned by simple application to the court with jurisdiction. Regional councillors whose election is challenged shall remain in office pending a final decision. Where cancellation of all or part of the election is final, electors shall be convened within no more than 60 days of such cancellation.
Now that the regional council elections have finally happened, is that the end of the road for decentralization process in Cameroon? To the Minister of Decentralization and Regional Development and other decentralization experts, the answer is a resounding no. On the contrary, without being its starting point either, it is instead the acceleration of the process. As Kilian Ndifon here posits, the election have simply paved the way for the effective coming into being of the special status for the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Kilian?
December 6 regional elections complete institutional provisions of the Constitution and resolves two major stakes.
Decentralization is completed by these elections. That's the one stake. The second stake was on the implementation of the special status.
The organization of the regions is now in its practical phase.
You have an executive in the other regions, that is the president of the regional council, and in the southwest and the northwest you have an executive council. You have one organ with the chiefs and the representatives of the divisions in the 8 other regions. You have 2 chambers in the northwest and the southwest.
The special status gives wide-ranging powers.
They can give their opinion when the state is dealing with matters concerning education, justice.
In addition to the powers that decentralization gives, they have more powers now to be able to take decisions according to their culture, according to their history, as they are used to in matters that have to do with their local development.
Decentralization enhances participatory development.
When people are going to be in charge of their local affairs, they will be committed to have results.
As an achievement point, the regional elections are a solution to many national problems.
And you're watching the 7:30 news on the Cameroon Radio Television. We are beaming live from Yaoundé. On December 12, 2020, musical artists in Cameroon will converge on Yaoundé to select the people in whose hands they will entrust the management of the structure that defends their and protects their rights and interests. Ahead of that much-awaited elective General Assembly, the 7:30 News tonight opens a series on the situation of authors' rights in Cameroon as the musicians strive to put order in the running of their business. In the first of that series, Emmanuel Vermnoy went finding out why Cameroonian musicians can be so prolific, yet they yield little or no dividends at all from their artistic creation. Emanuela?
Cameroonian musical artists, for the most part, have got talent, are creative and have the ability to explore their full potentials. Yet, after releasing tunes that make waves across the globe, they are unable to enjoy their authors' rights due to the long-standing crisis in the organ in charge.
There's no status for the artist. The texts are well done. Are the artists capable of translating this text in action? Is the right man at the right place to do the right job, giving the artist opportunity to live well? That is all the problem.
The discrepancies in the collection and distribution of authors' rights and the artist's non-mastery of the text that guides the corporation leave most of them wallowing in misery.
Former team did not give results of the way they were managing things of Sonacam. It is obvious because they did not have any legal documents that they had to follow to give the results.
The state must play the right role like a sort of gendarme to say this is money for artists, this money must go for the artists.
As the Music Arts Corporation braces up for its restructuring and election on December 12, hopes are high.
Lately, we had the adoption of the Constitution of the Sonacam, Electoral Code, and all these documents permit to guide the functioning of Sonacam.
So to bring the sanity to the sector and ensure that artists gain from their works, cultural experts suggest the board is accompanied by the state in the management of authors' rights.
Jaili Amadou Amal has received a heroine's welcome back home as the Literature Prize for High School flies back home after receiving her prize in a ceremony in Paris. The laureate arrived at the Douala International Airport over the weekend and was received, amongst others, by the Regional Delegate of Arts and Culture for the Littoral and a crowd of well-wishers. From Douala, Rosalind Foza reports.
It was a welcome reserved only to those who have engraved their names on stones that Jaili Amadou Amal, who briefed all the criteria of the Goncourt Literature Prize for High School competition in France, received. The winner of the literature competition could not hold her emotions as hundreds of Cameroonians showed up at the Douala International Airport to welcome the literature goddess.
Les Camerounais sont formidables.
Cameroonians are excellent. Even people who have never read a line now know what a Goncourt is. This prize is even more important to me because youths are those who voted. And when they do, they are sincere.
The daughter of the soil, whose book Les Impatients once more takes Cameroon to the summit, was congratulated by both authorities and family members upon her arrival.
She raised up the flag of Cameroon, and I think all Cameroonians are proud of her for this wonderful prize.
Thanks to Jaili Amadou Amal, Cameroon is once again on the podium of the Goncourt for high school after Leonora Miano won the prestigious award in 2006 with her book that spotlights early and false marriages.
Let's go over to the Parliament now, especially to the Senate, where senators have expressed the wish for government to transform the audit bench of the Supreme Court to a semi-independent structure with financial autonomy. Such a move will facilitate the external audit and control of public finances, especially at the era of effective decentralization. They expressed their worries today during the 15th Exchange Forum between members of the Upper House of Parliament and the audit bench of the Supreme Court. Senate correspondent Charles Anyangwe reports.
The evolution of relations between Parliament and the audit bench of the Supreme Court is the theme for this 15th Exchange Forum between the two structures. This Exchange Forum, according to officials of the Senate, is of prime importance.
The relationship between Senate and the Chamber will be ameliorated in the future.
From the different presentations made, senators acknowledged the important role played by the audit bench in controlling the management of public finances and made it clear that this function is being jeopardized by lack of adequate finances to ensure the deployment of control teams to the different state structures and decentralized territorial collectivities that are now managing huge resources transferred to them during this era of decentralization. Senators expressed the wish for government to transform the audit bench into an autonomous structure with financial independence that will enable it carry out its control functions well. To officials of the audit bench, this worry is a cause for concern.
Audit bench is a constitutional organ. To have an autonomy, you have to modify the constitution. That's the main problem, which is very difficult to explain.
Officials of the two structures took the commitment to reinforce their relationship through reports and opinion sharing, as well as to ensure the organization of more exchange forums in the future.
Cameroon's Investment Promotion Agency has announced that the third edition of the investment market will hold on the 9th and 10th of December via video conference from Yaoundé. It will be addressed by project promoters, bankers, and leaders of other financial institutions who will all be examining the possibilities of doing business in Cameroon. Lumaslim Davis reports on the details as were outlined in the press conference in Yaoundé today.
As Cameroon intends to become an emerging economy by 2035, focus is on investment projects that can contribute to the reduction of Cameroon's trade deficit and alleviation of poverty.
Our goal is, how do we entice the banks? How do we bring them into the mainstream, the investment mainstream, so that they can start looking at projects which are long-term and which are bankable? We've been trying to mature the projects that we select as much as possible, so that the banks can get a good, look for their money.
Emphasis will be in investment projects promoting agricultural production, animal production and related activities, as well as ICTs.
We have all our equipment in place. We have built on the technical platform a special website for registration for participants all over the world. As of date, we can proudly talk of about 70 registered participants in more than 10 different countries, including Cameroon.
Principal objective of the investment market is to accompany project promoters to obtain bank support.
Cameroon's Finance Minister Louis-Paul Motaze today held talks with the Director General of the Banque Centrale Populaire of Morocco. The Finance Minister and his host were accompanied to the audience by their close collaborators. Mr. Rojdi Sanhaji spoke to our reporter Lumaslim Davis about the main thrust of his exchange with the minister.
We paid a visit to His Excellency, the Minister of Finance, to share with him about the decisions we took during the last year in the BSEC and the strategic plan we put in place to enhance the quality of service to the clients during the 3 coming years.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
A little over 9 months after the first COVID-19 case was confirmed in Cameroon, health professionals are making a balance sheet of the campaign that was aimed at reducing the spread of the virus in communities. How far have they gone in this endeavor, and with what results have they come up with? Let's now join Baldwin Sama at the Public Health Emergencies Operations Center with his guest, Dr. Eric Tandy, for updates. Good evening, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Ben Menopofong. As you said, it remains one of government's strategies to limit the spread of the coronavirus in the country ever since we had the first confirmed case in the month of March this year, going to the different communities to sensitize the different populations and to limit the spread. As you rightly asked, how far have they gone and with what results? We discussed that tonight with Dr. Eric Tandy. Good evening, Doctor.
Yeah, good evening, Baldwin.
How far have you guys gone with this intention to reduce the spread of the virus in the communities, and what are some of the results?
Yes, Baldwin, as you have known, we've gone really, really far because we've taken the communication to the population themselves. The population has taken the sensitization and the engagement of the control of COVID-19 in their hands. How? By getting communication to everybody within the community by the community leaders themselves and the population engaging themselves in this control. And then that is why today there is no community, you will bear with me, in Cameroon that does not understand what is COVID or not talking about COVID. But then there is still some laxity that will, because barrier measures are no longer strictly respected. And we are urging the population at all times to reinforce these barrier measures and communication strategy within the communities.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eric Tandy, for being a guest this evening. The different communities must continue respecting the outlined barrier measures in order for us to totally put an end to the spread of the coronavirus, not only in the communities, but in Cameroon at large. Back to you, Ben Menopofo.
Thank you very much, Baldwin, and your guest, and the struggle still continues to keep corona at bay. A group of health experts from some French-speaking African countries are being drilled on how to better express themselves and create awareness of tuberculosis, malaria, and HIV and AIDS. The initiative of the Impact Santé Afrique NGO seeks to step up professional advocacy for the 3 diseases which are claiming lives across the globe. From Douala, Madunkwele tells us more.
Over the years, the non-governmental organization Impact Santé Afrique has noted that some French-speaking African countries have fewer leaders trained to speak out to ensure sustainable advocacy for HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria. It is for this reason that they organized the training workshop in Douala, where actors, including Global Fund advocates, French-speaking civil society organizations, and emerging leaders in the fight against malaria, were given techniques on how to strengthen their oratory skills in order to improve quality dissemination of their stories and key messages with different audiences. According to the non-governmental organization, spearheaded by its founder, Olivia Ngu, the workshop was also in a bid to ignite confidence and professionalism in the transmission of messages in the fight against HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria.
Some 30 police officers from the Central African sub-region are scaling up their intervention techniques as well as on how to handle a democratic crowd during especially rowdy periods in elections. This was during a training seminar at the International School for Security Forces in Hawaii in the outskirts of Yaoundé. Beatrice Ngum tells us more.
Confrontations between the police and protesters during protest march are common around Africa these days. To put an end to such incidents, the International School for Security Forces has upgraded the skills of some 29 police staff on the peaceful handling of crowds as per UN standards. The trainees are from 12 African countries of the sub-region.
We were here to learn all the different and the new aspects of the United Nations, which is prescribed in the management of crowds and disorder.
They were also equipped on how to gain control over the opponent's weapon and international humanitarian law. Are these trainings sponsored by the government of France and Cameroon?
We can say that our trainees are ready to do their job perfectly in the field.
Receiving their end-of-course attestations, the director of the school challenged them to shine the flag of the institution high wherever they are called to train others in other UN police units.
Now on to sports. Some 20 intermediate Lions out of the 28 called to camp to prepare for the 2020 African Nations Championship today began training at the CAF Excellence Center in Bankomo outside Yaoundé. And as Baldwin Sama now tells us, the Lions will use this camping to fine-tune their technical, tactical and physical fitness for the competition that Cameroon will be hosting. Baldwin?
They begin a decisive preparatory phase ahead of the African Nations Championship, a phase to be spiced with some matches to be played during a football competition. During Monday's training session, 20 out of the 28 shortlisted players were present, with other players of both PWD of Bamenda and Cotton Sport of Garoua due to their weekend international involvement absent. Coaches Martin Tungumpile and Dumbe Bosso consulted for long as a greater part of Monday's training session was in camera. Players like Patrick Mevungu and other newcomers are kickstarting a new phase with this team, as most of the team's regulars have been sidelined. The Intermediate Lions are expected to train here daily for the next 8 days before a 3 days break, after which they will resume on the 20th of December for the last decisive phase that will lead them to the African Nations Championship.
We still talk sports now. Cameroonian footballers in the European diaspora were again in the shine this weekend, propelling their respective clubs to resounding victories. While Njoya Ajara played her Norwegian side into winning the women's league of that country, Carl Toko Ekambi netted twice as his club side Lyon beat Metz 3-1 in the French league. Here now is Romeo Kenye with an overview of the weekend performance of the Lions and Lionesses in the European Championships.
A wonder ball lately. Jean-Pierre Samet was on top form in the Swiss Super League, helping young boys in a 3-2 victory against FC Lausanne. The forward netted his 5th goal of the season. Nicolas Nkulu was on target for Torino on match day 11 of the Italian Serie A, but Juventus were stronger, winning 2-1. Vincent Aboubakar got a 7th goal in the Turkish Premier League. In the English Premier League, Liverpool of Joel Matip were simply sensational, overpowering Wolves 4-0, with Matip finding the back of the net. While Frank Zambo-Anguissa and Fulham fought hard to quit relegation in a 2-0 bashing against Manchester City in match day 17. Njoya Ajara and teammates emerged league champions in Norway. Ajara was the league's highest goal scorer with 10 goals.
That was it for this edition. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:30. Good night.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing
l'info.